All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yibao. I'm an assistant professor from Stevens Institute of Technology. Today, my presentation will focus on AI-assisted design of low-carbon, cost-effective concrete, and particularly, my presentation will focus on deep learning from physical and chemical reaction information. And this is a collaborative research with my colleague, Professor Wina Meng from the same university. So this research was motivated by some grand challenges in this century, including the aging infrastructure, climate change, and the water pollutions. All of these grand challenges converge to the idea of utilizing waste materials, different types of solid waste, in producing high performance and green concrete for infrastructure applications. Different types of waste that have been widely used in concrete production, such as industrial byproducts like fly ash, slags, and municipal waste materials and construction C&D waste. In many cases, the use of waste materials might compromise the performance of the concrete, like flowability and mechanical properties and durability. But some very important research has been done to develop high performance, like ultra high performance concrete and strain hardening cementitious materials with very unique mechanical properties and durability. So, for example, UHPC and ECC, they achieved very high mechanical properties and durability. So currently, the design of those high performance and low carbon materials mainly based on two types of methods. One is the theory-based methods, such as for example, for the design of UHPC, a very important theory is the particle packing density theory. So basically, we wanted to optimize the particle packing density so that we get very fine, refined microstructures and therefore high mechanical properties and durability. But usually the theory is kind of highly simplified. So it's usually very difficult to just rely on the theory to get a very good mixed design. But the theory can work very well in guiding or explaining some design process. So in laboratory practice, we often use performance-based methods. So we conduct a series of experiments step by step to design and optimize the material. So this method works very well, and that's the very popular method used in current practice. But this method is inefficient in time and cost. We have to do a lot of experiments. So this motivated us to develop other methods which are more efficient. And with the advances in artificial intelligence, my group has done some research on AI-assisted design, and also our peer colleagues also did a lot of important research. So in summary, the primary concept of using machine learning in designing concrete or other materials is like this. So there are two main steps. First, so there are two main steps, including the development of a machine learning model to do the prediction of material properties based on the concrete design variables, like if we specify how much water and cement and aggregates are used, then we can predict the concrete property. And then basically this machine learning model creates the relationship between the input and output variables or properties. And then based on this relationship, we can do optimization. We can use existing optimization methods. So we can specify some target properties. We can apply some constraints. For example, we want to make sure the compressive strengths reach 120 megapascal or 18 KSI at 28 days. And then we perform the analysis. We will try to identify the best design solution, like a mixed design, which gave us the lowest cost. So, but the problem is that we have to have a high fidelity predictive model to relate the input and output information of concrete. Then how can we use machine learning to do this property prediction? The basic idea is pretty straightforward because in our performance-based design based on experiments, we often do some parametric studies, right? We try to test the effects of water to cement ratio, binder to sand ratios. So if there's just one variable in the design problem, in the design task, which is the water to cement ratio, then when we change the water to cement ratio, we can establish this regression relation between concrete compressive strength and water to cement ratio. And then we extended this problem to consider two variables. We add the sand to cement ratio, and then we can still generate a regression relationship. So this will become a surface, right? It's not a straight curve. Now it's the surface. And then in real design problem, there are more variables. So this is like a high dimension regression problem. So when the problem becomes more complicated, we need more advanced models to establish this relation. That's why we use the machine learning methods, which is good at dealing with high dimension and nonlinear regression problems. So machine learning models developed based on data. So data is the knowledge of the model. And in concrete design, we have been using a lot of experimental data reported by previous reports and papers. So this is the example from my colleague's previous paper. So this idea is straightforward, but how can we use it in real practice? There are still a lot of challenges. I listed some of the representative challenges. I categorized them into multiple types. The first is the challenge related to data. So again, data is the source of knowledge. So the amount, the quality and quantity of data are extremely important. So first, my question is, how can we collect the data efficiently? And is it possible to update the data sets over time? Then if we have data sets, how can we evaluate the quality of the data set? Is there any errors or anomalous data included? And then how can we select the relevant variables? So the second type of question is how can we select the best model? Usually we test different models, like 20, 30 models, but can we develop a good model more effectively? And the next challenge is about the design problem. As I mentioned, for concrete design, this could be a high-dimensional design problem. For a particular problem, maybe we only have a few or several variables, but if we want to develop a machine learning model that can be applied to consider a wide range of design problems, then we have to consider a lot of variables. So how can we achieve high efficiency in the design task? Then the last main challenge is when we deal with the use of waste materials, because the waste materials have a lot of variations, right, from different regions, and over time, the physical properties and chemical properties of the waste could be changing a lot. So how can we deal with the physical and chemical property change? So my research group has developed multiple approaches to solve different problems that have been identified, including the AI-based data collection, data generation, data processing, and the AI model generator, and optimization method, and the data translator. So today I will briefly talk about these techniques, and then I will mainly focus on the consideration of artificial language method to consider the physical and chemical properties of concrete. So first, we wanted to have a method to efficiently collect data. So we developed a method that can identify the relevant papers or reports, and then we can extract the relevant data from those files automatically. So why do we do that? Because my group started with collecting data manually, but we found that it's very inefficient. If we wanted to collect 1,000 data, we spent about 1 month. And then this motivated us to develop this efficient method. And then it works very well. We could collect the same amount of data within less than 1 hour. And another very important feature of this method is that this enables us to update the data set over time. Like in the last year, we had this amount of available literature, and this year we have more papers and reports published, so we have more data. Then if we rerun this program, then we collect new data sets. This new data set will include a lot of new information. For example, in this year, we identify, okay, we did more experiment to use another type of waste material. Then in our data set, we will have this kind of information, which enable us to update our machine learning model to be able to consider this kind of new design space. So basically, this will enlarge our design space. And because of this enlarged data space, we achieve higher accuracy. So as you can see, when we focus on the data at different time, in 2014, we only had maybe 20 papers, and then in 2022, we collected 2,000 papers. This will enable us to significantly improve the accuracy as indicated by R² value, so the accuracy is increased. Also, because the design database, design space is enlarged, we could consider a wider range of variables and more types of variables. This enables us to achieve higher compressive strengths, and also we can further reduce the material cost and carbon emission. This all comes naturally with the larger data sets. But this is still not enough because in the literature, we still couldn't get enough data. Then how can we deal with this reality? We develop two methods to generate artificial data. How to generate the data? We need to make sure the generated data are reasonable. It may not be realistic, but it should be kind of reasonable. So we consider the two main methods. The first method is to use some theoretical or empirical equations. So for example, this is the equation developed based on a lot of testing data for strain hardening cementitious composites. Then we utilize this kind of equations to generate more data to enrich our database. The second type of method is to use the generative AI method. So basically, we could combine the features of data from different sources, and then we combine them for synthetic or artificial data. So again, this kind of generative AI model needs to be trained using some seeding data. Seeding data is test data. We use the test data to train this model, and then use this model to generate some new data. The new data is analyzed using some theories and expert knowledge to make sure those data are reasonable. And then we use the data to enlarge our data sets. Then there's still a very important problem. The data set is enlarged, but it could have more anomalous data, right? Some of the data may not be reasonable. How can we identify this? How can we evaluate? We use unsupervised learning method to analyze the data. So some of the data having very different features could be identified. So here you can see a very simple cluster analysis. Some red points are separated from the blue points. But this method is purely based on the data or computing technique. It's not based on testing data. It's not based on knowledge. So this method is not that reliable, right? So it could have some errors. So we cannot just based on this analysis. We need to be able to think a little more beyond it. So what we did was we introduced the contamination ratio concept. We will rank the data based on their normalness. And then we will vary the contamination ratio. Let's say this whole set of data, they are all trusted. So the contamination ratio is 0. We will include all of the data in the analysis. And then we assume, okay, actually we have 25% of the data is wrong. They are wrong data. We will delete them. Then, by varying this contamination ratio, we can obtain the machine learning results. And we will see that when we change this ratio, when we exclude some of the data, we will get a different accuracy for the model. If we exclude all of the data or most of the data, then we will have a very small data set. Although those data are considered as high fidelity data, the size of the data set is too small, so the accuracy will be low. But if we include all of the data, then there will be some anomalous data, then the accuracy is also low. So in the middle, there's a best ratio. Then we selected this best ratio to get high accuracy models. We also consider how to select the variables, because when we want to develop a complicated model to consider different design problems, we will have a lot of variables. How can we identify the relevant, the necessary variable? This is a very important task. So we develop a method to evaluate the relevance of the variables. Then eventually we identify some of the very important variables to train the machine learning model. So we consider the different types of models, including the individual models and ensemble models. So overall, the ensemble models are more complex, so they give us higher accuracy, but that's not always true. We still need to test many different models, and we perform hyperparameter tunings. We do a lot of work every time, which is very time consuming. And when the data set is changed, the model is also changed. So to address this kind of problem, we proposed the auto-tuning method. So basically, we developed this approach to kind of combine and modify the machine learning models to achieve high fidelity models. And then we compared the developed model with some existing methods, and we found that this method outperformed the other methods. So after all of these efforts, we can train the high-fidelity machine learning model to predict the material properties, right? Once we specify the input variables, like the water-to-cement ratio, water content, this kind of information, then the program will automatically give us the concrete properties. We have tried to predict compressive strength, tensile strength, flexural strength, flowability, durability. And if we have this kind of relationship, we can use the optimization method to consider different design problems. So, for example, in this slide, I show I use the green color to show some information, some properties which are predicted by the machine learning model, and the red color boxes can be directly calculated based on the inventory data, right? Once we have the concrete design variable, we can calculate the relevant cost, carbon footprint based on some inventory created in literature. And we use the machine learning model to predict those concrete properties. And then we put them together, we define the design problem. For example, we want to make sure the concrete achieve 120 megapascal at 28 days for the compressive strength. And then we wanted to optimize maximize the durability and the ductility. At the same time, we want to minimize the cost, the carbon footprint, and embody the energy. So we can define this optimization problem, then we can obtain our design solution. So again, this is a high-dimension optimization problem. So we have to use efficient optimization algorithm. And then we tested this approach through a case study. We wanted to design low carbon, ultra high performance concrete. We define the design targets. We want to make sure that the mini slump flow is at least 260 millimeter, and the 28-day compressive strength is at least 120 megapar. And then we wanted to minimize the cost, the carbon footprint, and maximize the compressive strength. And we performed this analysis, multi-objective optimization task, and we obtained some design solutions. So we compared one of the solutions with some existing so-called sustainable UHPC in the literature, and we found that this method can largely reduce the cost and carbon, and at the same time we can maintain the compressive strength level. Okay, this method seems kind of interesting method, but still it has a lot of problems. When I share this with my concrete colleagues, they think, well, it looks cool in the lab, but will it work in the field, right? Your method is based on data, but it could violate our principles in concrete area. How can we make sure it satisfies those laws? So in the next session, machine learning session, my colleague Wina Meng will talk about how we incorporate knowledge. But in my presentation, I will explain how we can consider the physical and chemical properties in this analysis. At least we want to make sure that we are considering some relevant material information in this design problem. So in most existing machine learning methods, when we define the design variable, we usually call it like a flash, C flash, or slag. But the different types of flash, like class F, class C flash, when we use the same name in the machine learning model, we think they are the same, but actually they are not the same. How can we consider this difference? This difference is very important when we consider the different types of waste materials. So we develop artificial language processing method. We design artificial language which can be utilized to describe their chemical and physical information. And then we include this kind of information in our input as the input information. So for example, the different types of chemical composition information could be described in this way, like computer language. And then this computer language can be converted to numerical data. Then this numerical data can be analyzed by the machine learning model. Then by doing this task, our machine learning model will not just consider the engineering name of the materials like flash, class F, flash, class C. We really consider what exactly we are using, right? For this kind of powder, what is the particle size distribution and what is the chemical composition? Then this enables us to generalize the machine learning predictive capability for a wider range of waste materials, because we are considering the controlling parameters, right? The physical and the chemical properties. And also this method enables us to investigate, to explore some relationships between the different variables. So for different types of flash or slag, they have different chemical composition. Then what is the coupling effect between those compositions? For example, if this power plant produces some sort of flash, if we know the effects of different variables, we can possibly do some modification, right? For example, if the calcium content is too low, maybe we add some calcium into this kind of flash. Then we can possibly, eventually you can standardize or regulate the use of different waste materials for more controllable, more reliable concrete production process. So the conclusion, we developed some innovative techniques to solve different challenges for using machine learning to design concrete. And particularly, I want to emphasize the consideration, the importance of considering the physical and chemical information of different raw materials in producing concrete. And we think it's possible to achieve a better generalization performance of machine learning models, use some powerful models to consider many types of concrete design problem. And this presentation is the combination of several papers in information. So this is the list. I didn't elaborate the details. So if you're interested, I'm happy to share those papers with you. Then you can find more details. And this research was done by, it's a collaborative research, and most of the work was done by our PhD students, and this research has been funded by different agencies and a company. So that's it. Thank you very much for your attention.